All right, on tonight's episode of Python Papi, we're back inside our generative AI course. Let's have a look at what we went over tonight. And last night, we recorded the topics we touched on last were the unsupervised learning and supervised learning. So tonight we're going to pick up where we left off. Now we will look at a few more examples dealing with this concept. You see here we have a model unsupervised learning, and then we have a supervised learning model here. This one is going to be our clustering. K means clustering, DBS scan clustering. This is that one here, X2, X1. And this one here is our classified or classification and regression module or model. You can see this one here. These are all concepts that we went over inside our artificial intelligence course, so they should sound somewhat familiar, even if you don't understand exactly what we're talking about. They should sound a little familiar because we went over all of these concepts and steps recently, very recently, when we just finished our artificial intelligence course. So yeah, moving on. So this is a brief explanation. Generative AI is a subset of deep learning, as we said repeatedly, and generative models are trained on huge amounts of data. While training a generative model, we don't need to provide the labeled data. It is not possible when we have a huge amount of data. So let's just try and see the relationship between the distribution of the data. Now, in generative AI, we give unstructured data to the LLM model for training purposes. And you can see here we have another model here, so it looks kind of hectic. Let's break it down. So here we have two clusters here, and our generative model, and then we have one discriminative model here, or one linear model here. You can see here. So there's all two separate models, so we don't get confused. And this one is labeled dog image, dog image. So this dog image right here is clustered together from this data here of cat images. You have a cat image and cat image. So it's generative. So this generative model here generated two different clusters. One cluster that gets fed by cat images and one cluster that got fed by dog images. So as you can see, the two clusters separated themselves and gradually moved towards the likewise data. So all of the dog images gravitated towards each other and clustered together up here in the dog images. All of the cat images cluttered together or clustered together down here in the cat images. And with the discriminative line of linear data here, you can see here we have cat images on one side and dog images on one side. And this line discriminates between the data and puts all of the dog data on one side of the line and all of the cat data on the other side of the line. And we've seen that also in artificial intelligence. So all of this stuff is just repeat of stuff that we went over, so it should look familiar. And so in this model, we first perform the unsupervised learning for our generative clustering and then perform the other various steps in the process. So if you remember, the unsupervised learning does take various steps that we perform on a cluster or the generative models, this model here. And then we perform supervised learning for the discriminative or classification and regression. So this one gets supervised learning, just the supervised learning, that's it with the LLMs. This one here gets unsupervised. Let me see if I could get all this stuff for you really quickly so we can read over them really quickly. We got time. It's not a long video at all. If I can find it really quickly. There is music playing in the background, so I'm trying to keep a steady flow without having to stop and get that copyrighted. Yeah, see, the first step will be unsupervised learning. The second step will be using supervised fine tuning. And the third step, we use reinforcement learning. So that's everything that's going to go into this generative model here. This one here with these two, those various steps, and then this one just gets supervised learning for the discriminative. So that's that there. And now we look a little closer at LMs, and we're going to do that tomorrow, but I can read it for you really quickly. Large language models are foundational machine learning models that use deep learning algorithms to process and understand natural language. These models are trained on massive amounts of data or text data to learn patterns and entity relationships in a language. It is a large model which is responsible for performing tasks such as text-to-text generation, text-to-image generation, and image-to-text generations. That's why I stopped at that. Like I said, we are taking it step by step. I don't want to overload myself every night with a bunch of new information, even though this information isn't new. We're just going to take it step by step anyway until, we get full enough to move full speed ahead. This is still beginning anyway. We haven't even dived into the course yet. So, yeah, we're going to take it step by step so we're ready to dive in as soon as it's time to dive in. But I will keep you guys posted every step of the way. For now, this is the Python Papi. You guys stay Gucci.